Greetings, my friends. Welcome back to Mike Allen from Chicagoland. Today I'm broadcasting from the town of Roscoe, Illinois, about 10 miles north of Rockford. And I'm visiting a place I've wanted to check out for a while now, the historic Auto Attractions building, but it's just not a car museum. This place has a ton of historical artifacts that I've been wanting to check out. I saw another YouTuber by the name of Jacob the Carpetbagger. He profiled this place about a month ago, and it made me want to visit it even more. So I'm battling a rainstorm here this morning, so I had to do the intro from underneath this awning in front of the building, but we're gonna head inside and check this place out, so please come and join me. And as you can see, this is quite a lengthy building, so a lot to look forward to. A lot of cool things to see. My two favorite cowboy actors growing up as a kid, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. Now this is John Wayne and his character from True Grit, the only movie that he won an Academy Award for Best Actor. And I should add, Clint Eastwood's character here is from his spaghetti western movie days with director Sergio Leone. Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Some of John Wayne's personal artifacts here is Warner Brothers Western cowboy hat. He even got his personally engraved decorative cigarette case. The man was a very heavy smoker. One of the things on my list of things to do is to go see the hometown of Wild Bill Hickok in Troy Grove, Illinois, which is not far from where I live. This is the actual reward poster for Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. This is amazing here. Jesse James's actual revolver. It's amazing that just a humble museum here in Roscoe, Illinois has something this iconic. Piece of wood from Jesse James's last home, and wood from the famed coffee bean tree under which he is buried, and wallpaper pieces from the room in which he was killed. The Conestoga wagon, which began the custom of driving on the right side of the road. Lancaster to Philadelphia in 6 days, and it typically traveled about 15 miles a day. And an actual stage carriage carrying the U.S. mail. Let's see if we can get a look inside here. This here's a horse-pulled hearse, circa 1860. So I just saw the Elvis movie that came out, and I got a bunch of memorabilia here for the king himself. This is Elvis's 1972 Lincoln Mark IV. This is one of Elvis's shirts that he personally owned, the one he wore in the movie Wild in the Country. Here's some of Elvis's items, a rare leather belt from 1956. This here is a cigar that he smoked half of it and was later preserved. Picture of him wearing his glasses right here. It's a picture of Elvis as a young child with his mom and dad. And his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, who Tom Hanks recently portrayed in the movie that just came out. And this is pretty cool here. Jam session with Jerry Lee Lewis, Carl Perkins, and Johnny Cash. Dresses of Marilyn Monroe. Some of Buddy Holly's personal effects. Buddy Holly, who unfortunately died in a plane crash in Iowa in 1959. There's a display showing some of James Dean's artifacts. Here's his life mask. Some more pictures in his shirt. James Dean unfortunately and tragically passed away in a car accident at the age of 24 after starring in 3 films: East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. 1925 Ford Model T used by Stan Laurel and Oliver Hardy in the comedy short Big Business in 1929. This is amazing. Mikhail Gorbachev's 1991 Mercedes. It's amazing to be able to get a car like this from the Soviet Union's last ever leader. 1962 Checker cab. This was the quote-unquote getaway vehicle that Lee Harvey Oswald used after he assassinated President Kennedy. He hailed this cab and was taken back to his rooming house. This was the actual flag that flew over the nation's capital during John F. Kennedy's funeral in 1963. Piece of fence from the grassy knoll area next to the book depository where Lee Harvey Oswald fired the shots. Some allege that a second shooter came from the grassy knoll. I don't really believe that. I think those are all just conspiracies. But this is still cool nonetheless, seeing this piece of artifact. So this is a 1956 Cadillac Secret Service parade car, and this was the follow-up car that was behind Kennedy in 1963 when Oswald fired the shot that killed the president. And this is a replica of the car Kennedy was riding in when he was killed. There's JFK with Jacqueline Kennedy. So this is an actual suit that Lee Harvey Oswald owned. He brought this suit along with him when he defected to the Soviet Union in 1959. A bullet fired from the gun that killed Lee Harvey Oswald as he was being transferred by Texas police officers. Person firing the gun was Jack Ruby. Try to see this in the glare here, but that is a replica statue of Jack Ruby assassinating Lee Harvey Oswald. And this was the ambulance that Lee Harvey Oswald was transported to the hospital in after Ruby shot him. He eventually died at Parkland Hospital, the same hospital that Kennedy was pronounced dead. And these are the actual shoes that Jack Ruby wore when he shot Oswald. And this is the actual flag that was draped over Kennedy's casket as he lied in state. Here's an actual ticket to see the impeachment of President Andrew Johnson. It says 1886 there, but it's actually supposed to be 1868. Johnson was the very first president ever impeached. Now, he was not convicted. He was acquitted in the Senate, but he was the first president to face impeachment. The second being Bill Clinton, and the third being Donald Trump. Dr. Martin Luther King, a chair that he used up in his cabin retreat circa 1966. So a wooden dresser used in the main residence of the White House by First Ladies Mamie Eisenhower and Jackie Kennedy. Now this here is the section that I've really been looking forward to seeing. Let's see what NASA artifacts we can find in here. That's the spacesuit glove of astronaut Gene Cernan during the Apollo 17 mission. Cernan was the last human being to walk on the moon, as Apollo 17 was the last mission to the moon in the Apollo program. 1972. Definitely don't want to be claustrophobic if you're an astronaut. Those are some very tight quarters. Full-size mock-up of a Mercury space capsule, which only one person could fit in. God, this is even more tight quarters. I don't know about you, but I could never, ever sit in something this enclosed. An autographed picture of Apollo 11 flight crew, Neil Armstrong, Michael Collins, and Buzz Aldrin. Entering the movie car section now, and no car museum would be complete without the Back to the Future DeLorean. I saw one of these at the Volo Auto Museum and seeing one here today. Looks like this is a mock-up from the Back to the Future Part 2, because looks like that's supposed to be the Mr. Fusion place where Doc Brown throws garbage in there and turns the garbage into energy. Flintstones vehicle from the 2000 movie Viva Rock Vegas. And we got two Batmobiles here, one from the 1960s TV show starring Adam West, and the 1989 Tim Burton film starring Michael Keaton. And the Ghostbusters vehicle, Ecto 1. And the family truckster from National Lampoon Vacation with Ed and Edna up on top. And a TV show that I've been growing more and more fond of here later in life, even though it's been off the air for about 50 years now. The Andy Griffith Show, and one of the squad cars used in the show. There's a 1923 Lincoln used by President Calvin Coolidge. We got Richard Nixon's limo, as well as Herbert Hoover's limo. Tricky Dick Richard Nixon's Chrysler limousine, 1986. So this was after he was the president. This was his ride. President Eisenhower's Cadillac. Ike, 1962 Cadillac Fleetwood limousine. So this was also used after Ike was president. This was Lyndon Johnson's personal limousine, 1965 Lehman Peterson Lincoln Continental. So this was the coach that carried President McKinley's body after he was assassinated in 1901. Wow. This is a piece of history right here.
He was one of the smartest human beings.
Entering gangster land now. Let's see what kind of mob-related vehicles are in here. Replica of the Bonnie and Clyde death car. Now I do know that there were a lot of replicas roaming around the country shortly after their death. Basically, a lot of fraudsters were bringing them into towns pretending that they were the actual death car. So this is in fact a replica. It's like this says here, this was the car used in the 1967 film featuring Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway's Bonnie and Clyde. John Dillinger's 1932 Studebaker, his getaway car after robbing banks. The Lexington Hotel vault doors of Al Capone's from the former Lexington Hotel, which stood at the corner of Michigan Avenue and 22nd Street in Chicago. Inside the unique collections section of this museum now, and this is a all wooden framed vehicle. Can't imagine something like this would hold up on the roadway for very long, but it is cool to see nonetheless. This is called the bumper car. Chrome bumpers make up the entire frame of this vehicle. All been welded together to form the frame. This is a race car from Indianapolis Motor Speedway, 1929. The Indy 500 is still my absolute favorite auto racing. It's kind of like the Super Bowl of auto racing. I watch it every year. On Memorial Day weekend, never miss it. Boy, looking at these things now, they look like an absolute death trap. Holy cow. You look at the Indy cars, what they look like today, and they're safer than the cars that we drive on the road. I just love looking at Model Ts, 1912 four-cylinder Roadster. Just such a big part of American history and automobile history. Love just sitting and staring at something like this. Amazing piece of machinery. I also like that it seems to be in its original condition. Hasn't been restored or anything like that. Still shows the wear and tear of a car that's over 100 years old. Conway Twitty's 1957 Lincoln Continental Mark II. There's Conway Twitty right there. He was a country singer. Artifacts of Hank Williams Sr., including a shirt that he's wearing right here in this picture. Here's some more of his items. Fun fact, if you look at a picture of his grandson, Hank Williams III, you swear you were looking at Hank Williams Sr. They look identical. This 1960 Cadillac limo was the vehicle of inventor Howard Hughes. And inside the museum they have a memorial to 9/11. And this encasing of the actual blueprints of the original Twin Towers as they stood over Lower Manhattan right here. Some pictures of that day. I was in college at the time and slept late and learned about it later on that morning. Turned on CNN and sure enough there was the pile of rubble that was once the World Trade Center. Some information about Flight 93 and the passengers, and one thing I did want to point out is this gentleman up here, Todd Beamer, was a Wheaton College graduate, and he was the one who said to the passengers, "Let's roll," when they were getting ready to overtake the hijackers. And that's something that Wheaton College athletics uses to this day. They say, "Let's roll." That's kind of their rallying cry and slogan when they're heading out to play a game. Inside Abraham Lincoln section of the museum now, and this was a chair that was used by Lincoln himself in his study. Some personal artifacts of Abraham Lincoln, his razor and his spoon. And this is the mourning veil that Mary Town Lincoln wore. And also there's her fan. Here's a 35-star flag, which flew during the Lincoln administration in the time of the Civil War, 1863 to 1865. And I've heard about all of these coincidences before between JFK and Abraham Lincoln. And this was the horse-drawn carriage that transported Abraham Lincoln and his wife Mary Todd on the day that he was assassinated. This is the carriage that took him to Ford's Theater. Great artists and authors immortalized in wax. Van Gogh and Picasso, Ernest Hemingway. Probably my favorite of the bunch, Mark Twain. Grew up reading some of his books. This is Rembrandt, Grimm Brothers, and Hans Christian Andersen, a fine Christian name. And I think I'm going to end my time in this museum looking at a personal carriage of General and former President Ulysses S. Grant. He was called United States Grant and Unconditional Surrender Grant for his terms of unconditional surrender when he would win a battle during the Civil War. So thank you very much for joining me today on this journey through the historic auto attractions here in Roscoe, Illinois. Had a great time seeing all the different artifacts that this place has to offer. Spent over 2 hours in here, and I probably could have stayed even longer if I wasn't on such a time crunch, because there is so much to see and check out here, and all sorts of materials to read about and whatnot. So I would definitely recommend this place to anyone. Big thank you to YouTuber Jacob the Carpetbagger for doing a video on this place that allowed me to check it out on my own. So if you wouldn't mind hitting that like and subscribe button, I would greatly appreciate it. You could also check out some of the links below. Those are other ways that you can help me in growing this channel. Anyways, this is Mike Allen from Chicagoland signing off from Roscoe, Illinois. I'll be back next Friday with another video, but until then, don't you go changing.